Welcome back to Getting Caught Up. For this episode, I had a chance to catch up with Brittany Pietsch. You would know Brittany from a viral video that just about everyone saw and had an opinion on. In early January 2024, Brittany recorded a video of herself being laid off from her job at Cloudflare, a cybersecurity company based in San Francisco. She then posted the video on TikTok, where it racked up millions of views. The video got tens of more millions of views on X, where it ignited a fierce debate. It seemed like everyone rushed to judgment about the video and had a hot take on it. Everyone from conservative pundit Candace Owens, who said Britney was young and stupid, to the CEO of Cloudflare weighed in on it. He said the video was painful for him to watch. It really struck a chord with people. There was a blizzard of news stories about the video. So I had a bunch of questions for Britney about the whole thing, and she was very candid and forthcoming. We talked about how she ended up landing a job at Cloudflare and what the interview process was like there, and why she liked the job there and had been receiving positive feedback from her manager. She told me why she recorded the video in the first place, and then explained the decision to post it on TikTok, whether she ever second-guessed herself after the video started going viral. And we talked about the factors outside of her control that allowed the video to go as viral as it did. We also touched on the thousands of messages she says she's received from people all around the world who saw the video and what they've had to say to her privately. We talked for more than an hour, and I didn't think Britney was stupid at all. Britney came across as a smart and decent person who has certain convictions and is outspoken and believes in herself. But you should watch and make up your own mind. Quick reminder, please give this video a like, a comment, or a share to help us visibility so I can keep bringing you interviews with interesting people like Britney. So let's get to it. Here she is. Brittany Pietsch. All right, Brittany Pietsch, welcome to the podcast. It's good to have you.
Hi.
Thanks for taking the time to chat with me. I know there's a lot of interest in your story.
Yes,
And,
very much so.
yeah, and not surprisingly, and I have to say, many people spend all day, every day trying to make viral videos. You sure figured out fast how to do it.
Kind of
Really
by accident, for sure.
by accident. So we'll,
Definitely by
we'll
accident.
we'll talk all about that. And also, I want to say too, just I'm sorry that that happened. It's obviously a drag, and so
I
uh,
appreciate that. Yeah. Trying to
not
turn the negatives into a positive, though.
yeah, not a fun experience. So I hope you're doing okay and everything. And sorry you had to go through it, but
Thank you. I appreciate that.
let's sort of go back to the beginning. Landing the job at Cloudflare, right? Cloudflare in
Cloudflare.
the
Yeah.
first place. First of all, Cloudflare is the type of company I think people maybe have heard the name, but they might say to themselves, "Yeah, I've heard of Cloudflare, but I have no idea what they actually do." So, do you want to explain for a second what that company actually does?
Yeah. Cloudflare is a cybersecurity company, and they have ownership, not ownership, but they have availability and visibility into about 20-25% of the world's internet. So a lot of us use Cloudflare on a day-to-day basis and probably not even realize it. Like when you're trying to authenticate into your Capital One login or something like that where it's secure, there's a good chance that Cloudflare is kind of the back end for that cybersecurity. Mhm.
Okay, so obviously security company, software business. Tell me about what the hiring process was like there. You weren't there all that long. Was it an extensive hiring process? What did you have to go through to get this job?
It was an extensive hiring process, actually. I think it was about 5 rounds. First 2 rounds were just kind of conversational, typical interview question style. And then once you kind of pass those rounds, they actually had me do 3 different mock discovery kind of interviews, I guess. So I had to take time. When you're in the job market and you're trying to get a job, there's a lot that you have to prep for. And I had to do the most prep for the interviews for Cloudflare. I had to learn about one of their products that they're now selling just based on research on my own. And part of my interview was doing a mock discovery, meaning as if I'm the account executive meeting some random VP of whatever for the first time, and I have to sell them the product. I have to take them through exactly how I would sell the product and how I would explain it and how, what my sales process is, things like that.
So you're almost doing like some sort of work that's representative of what you'll be doing in the role if you were to get the job, right? And
Mhm.
how many hours would you say you put into that?
Oh, several, several, because it wasn't just, doing a mock discovery, just using my sales techniques and my just to see, what makes it so hard in those interviews is that I spent so much time trying to understand this product to sell that product. And they were so focused on trying to see if I did my research and understanding the product that I feel like they couldn't even, like, we weren't even focused on my selling ability and my sales techniques and my sales processes, things like that, because we were so focused on the tech. And I thought that was kind of interesting. But after I had to do that 3 different times with 3 different people.
Wow, wow.
Um, yes, it was quite extensive. And the reason why they do that, after I got the offer and the recruiter called me and told me about, that I got the offer and they want to offer me the job, she said, and I'll never forget, she said, like, it's extremely hard to get a job at Cloudflare. The reason why we take you such an extensive interview process is because, we are here to dedicate our time to you. We are here to build a relationship with you. Like, you're here for like, we want you to be here for the long haul. We make sure we're very careful with our decision making and who
Hmm.
we hire. That was a very big point that recruiter told me when I was offered the job, interestingly enough.
Interesting. Yeah. And let me just back up for a second. We can come back to that in 1 second, but I'm just curious. You said, so you put several hours into it. Maybe can you put a number on it? It was like 10 or something?
Maybe not that much. Maybe closer to like 4 or 5.
Four
And
or five.
it's funny, like, I have all of my notes that I did that I have had up with from my interview. I mean, it's like paragraphs of bullet
Sure.
points and notes and all kinds of stuff.
So you did that, and then you had to do this for 3 different people, and I'm assuming individually. So you three
Yes.
different times you did this. So I'm just curious. That's a fair amount of time. Did they pay you for this at all, or was this purely done
Purely just interviewing.
just
Yeah.
part of the process, right? Because
Part
I
of the
know there are some companies out there that now, if they're asking you to do work for them, they'll actually pay you for doing it. For the number of hours, they'll pay you like a market value, whatever whatever that job might be on an hourly basis. Uh,
Mhm.
they'll actually pay you. But you're saying that's not the case in this one. It was purely
No,
just
not at all. Yeah. It
yeah,
was purely, and I had to do all, like, I was trying to talk to the recruiter, like, they're expecting me to talk about, bot management, which is one of Cloudflare's like biggest products. They wanted me to do all this research on bot management, talk about bot management, sell it to the client, try to relate it back to whatever this faux VP of whatever is. And that is, I don't know. I feel like, how can you really tell how good a salesperson is in something like that? Like, when they're so focused and nervous on trying to make sure they're saying all the correct tech about that product,
right, right.
especially for salespeople, when, my job is not to be super technical. My job is to just sell.
Yeah. So they're really product focused and not necessarily sales focused. Yet once they offered you the job, they came to you. They said this is a really hard vetting process. We really put a lot of time into this because we want the right person. We want somebody we feel like is going to do well, and we want to invest in that person. That's kind of
Yes.
what they said. Yeah.
Yes.
And then so after you got that, tell me what you were feeling then. Were you excited to have this offer?
I was talking to a couple other companies at that time. And when I got the offer, I was in, last stage interviews with some other companies. And I ultimately went with Cloudflare because of the flexibility of the job. They were offering me, 100% remote job. They're headquartered in San Francisco. I live in Atlanta. They weren't requiring me to move. And that was a big thing that I was looking for in my next job, was having the flexibility to be remote, and that's what they were offering me. And the benefits package was good, and I had met the person who would end up being my manager, and I liked him, and so I thought, like, I think that the manager's going to be good. I have a flexibility, and the benefits and the pay is okay. So the cybersecurity market is really, really hot right now, and I talked to my dad, and I talked to who's been in the industry for a while, and I talked to several people, and they're like, get into cybersecurity. Like, that is a hot market. People need cybersecurity. You hear about all the time all these big hacking scandals and all the things that just happened in Vegas, where one of the MGM properties was hacked for
Sure.
a long time, and people need cybersecurity. And so I was like, maybe this is kind of a no-brainer. So that's ultimately kind of why I went with Cloudflare.
Yeah. So really, it checked all the boxes in terms of what you're looking for: flexibility, money, benefits, and then sort of like a hot market, hot industry right now.
Mm.
Yeah. And so when you accepted the job, were you required to go out there and meet people on site, or was it so you made at least one trip out to the headquarters? Is
I
that
did. My very first week starting there, I started August 25th, I think. It was the last Monday of August. I spent that whole week out in San Francisco. They flew me out there to do what they call like an onboarding boot camp.
Mhm.
That's where I bring my laptop, I get my laptop set up, I get access to all the things, do an intro of Cloudflare, that kind of thing.
And
Mhm.
how did you enjoy that experience at that point? What are you thinking about the job?
I liked it. I liked the people so far. I love, I had never been flown out before, just for, just starting for something in-person training. I hadn't done that. So I thought that was cool. I thought that was exciting. I really liked the people that I met, the guest speakers in the sales organizations that would come and kind of talk to us about their experience at Cloudflare. You kind of want to start drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit. You were like, oh,
Sure.
hell
Yeah.
yeah, like I made the right choice. Like this is a growing company. The perks were great, the free lunch and the free breakfast, and like the office was really cool. So you kind of get roped into being like, oh, this is cool. This is
Sure.
nice.
It's like a honeymoon period. Everything feels great, right?
Totally. It
Yeah.
only honeymoon period.
Yeah. So then you're out there for a week, you go back home, and then I guess you really get into the nuts and bolts of the job at that
Yeah.
point. Is that right?
Start doing a lot of learning, a lot of training modules, understanding cybersecurity 101. What is it? How does it work? Layers of the internet, layers of networking. How does the internet work with cybersecurity? How has Cloudflare impacted the internet? You just so much information. And it's really kind of like drinking from a fire hose, as a lot of people will put it.
Yeah.
Only for the first like 6 weeks. It's a ton of information that you're digesting.
Yeah. And this was all what about in August of 2023 that this was occurring? August, September, maybe?
2023, yeah. Yeah, through September. I spent pretty much the whole month of September in my onboarding trainings, taking courses, things like that.
Interesting. So at what point then did you actually get down to business and start trying to sell the thing?
So I didn't receive any of my like my book of business or the accounts that I could kind of start going after. I didn't receive that until I think like week 3 or 4 of starting. Um, So I couldn't even really begin to sell anything until I had those accounts. And then I had to work with my manager on trying to just, tiering out my accounts, meaning like, these are the 20 accounts I definitely should go after. And then these are the 40 accounts that may or may not be interested. And then you kind of
Yeah.
tier them out like that. Um, and that was kind of then my responsibility, is like really starting to organize all of my accounts, looking at which companies will buy which products and why, just trying to understand the why of it all. Why
Yeah.
am I selling Cloudflare? Why do companies care about it? What products are best fits for what companies in which industries? That kind of, it's all a big discovery and learning and shadowing other people's calls. That's another thing I did a lot was, the people on my team who had been there for a while, I would join their calls, see how they lead their calls, just to try to get more insight and information. Yeah, so that was pretty much for like 6, 7 weeks. And then towards the tail end of that, that's when I kind of started prospecting onto my accounts, starting to do some outreach, trying to get meetings set. And then from there, that's when it kind of kept going up into selling.
And when you talk about these accounts, are these brand new accounts like that the company does not already have a relationship or has already not sold the product to yet?
Yeah, good question. So within Cloudflare, there's several different departments within the sales team who are responsible for selling Cloudflare to a different variety of businesses. For example, I was on the self-serve team, and that means Cloudflare offers a lot of their services for very, very cheap or free on like these self-serve plans, meaning you're not a contracted customer, but you can just sign up through Cloudflare's website. It's either free or you pay like $5 a month or up to like $200 a month. And you
Right.
can get a lot of Cloudflare's products for pretty cheap. And that's, we would always recommend that to businesses like salons or churches, where there's nothing critical, mission critical about their website. They're not selling product on their website, but it's just a landing page of information or, signing up for a newsletter, things like that. Those kinds of plans are the best for Cloudflare. However, there's a ton of businesses that reside on those plans as well, like a ton of businesses that are mission critical with their website that do need more security. And my job was to go after those companies and source companies that were already using Cloudflare on a minimal basis, and then try to sell them our enterprise package.
Got it. Yeah. So you're trying to upgrade them essentially, right?
Upselling them all. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. At that point, what's your impression of the job? Were you feeling like it's easy to do this? Was it like an easy product to sell or to upsell
No,
to existing clients? No. Why
no,
not?
it was not. And if you ever talk to anyone at Cloudflare, they will say the same thing. But the way Cloudflare's pricing structure is makes it very difficult for sellers. So because we give away so much for free or for very cheap, I would say like this is a number I'm throwing out there, but to me it seems like we give away like 80%. Like most of everything that Cloudflare can offer and does really well, we give away for so cheap. And if like an account executive is working with a customer or working with a prospect and they haven't signed up for anything and they ultimately choose the self-serve plan versus an enterprise plan, that account executive doesn't make anything on that. So account executives only get paid if they're on an enterprise plan. But because Cloudflare gives away so much for free, it's really difficult to show the value of the enterprise package.
Yeah.
Especially if they just need like one or two advanced features. Suddenly they're looking at like a $250 a month fee to like $4,000, $5,000 a month fee. And so the issue that reps typically run into is, whoa, hold on, I only need one or two extra features and I'm, 10 times the amount that I'm paying, 20 times the amount that I'm paying. That's ridiculous. And to me, one thing that I never understood and had a really hard time trying to grasp is like, I agree with them. I'm like, you're right. Like our biggest competition at Cloudflare as sellers was Cloudflare, was our self-serve plans. It wasn't our competitors, it was us.
So it was a kind of difficult thing to sell. I also wonder too, if you're making that much of a jump, right? If you're paying $200 a month and then suddenly to get a couple more bells and whistles, you got to jump up to 4,000 or whatever. I don't know if I have those numbers exactly right, but it was something dramatic like that, right? I wonder too in this economy if that had an effect as well. I mean, there's a lot of different sort of takes on whether the economy is doing well or not right now. But I mean, everywhere I'm looking, I'm seeing companies cutting back, companies laying off employees because,
Oh yeah.
for whatever. I just saw yesterday, UPS is laying off 12,000 workers because labor costs going up and demand's going down. So I wonder, did you feel like that played into it? Did you ever get feedback from potential clients on why they weren't, or is that the main one?
Oh, that was it. It was
Yeah.
price every single time. And on my TikTok video that I posted, I kind of out myself and I say that, just because I haven't closed anything in 4 months doesn't mean I'm not a great seller or doesn't mean that I should be let go for my performance. And I also referenced that I had a lot of deals in the pipeline that just decided not to close last minute. And all of that was because of price. I did everything in the sales process from beginning, sourcing them, building a relationship, having the technical calls, guiding them through, the next steps, guiding them through their products, keeping them updated with everything, like doing all the right things that you're doing in sales, in addition to trying to learn what the hell I'm even selling because it's pretty cool and complicated. And I had three of them, and all three of them did not close after I had already sent the contract out. I had talked to them about the price. I had shown them, hey, this is going to be a big jump. It was very transparent throughout the process. Send out the contract. I'm literally just waiting for them to sign it, and then boom, it's closed. All three of them decided not to because they couldn't get the budget approved, and they didn't have the budget, and they couldn't make the sell to their CEO or to their CTO or whoever, holds the money.
Right.
They
Whoever's got to
cannot
make
tell
the call. Yeah.
that jump. They're like, whoa, 200 to 4,000. And 4,000 was on the low end, 200 to 5,000 sometimes in some cases.
Yeah.
And then this is something maybe I don't know if I'm allowed to kind of talk about. Um, but what was so crazy about that was, so, we take the deal to the very end, they give us pushback on it, and then it's my job to be like, okay, let me go to my manager, let me go to my director and see what we can do here, see what kind of discounts we can give.
Okay. Yeah.
The pricing structure at Cloudflare makes no sense. There is no rhyme or reason for anything. When I would try to talk to my manager or my director about pricing, they would ask me, well, what seems like a fair price to you? When I'm trying to price something out and try to understand how our pricing works for a
Yeah.
potential client. And they're like, what do you think is a fair number? Asking me. And I'm like, I have no idea. I have no idea what a fair number is. Like, I'm not here to make the prices of how much I think a bot management tool should be. Like, I'm looking for my leadership to help guide me on,
Sure.
this is how much things cost in the industry, and this is how much our competitors are charging, and this is how much, there was no data for stuff like that. And so the pricing was very, very arbitrary. It was very strange.
That's interesting. Was now two other questions for you, I guess, just to follow up on those points. Did you or maybe anyone else ever suggest maybe another pricing tier somewhere in the middle that didn't seem like
Oh,
such a
yes.
dramatic increase to a potential upselling client?
Yes, that was
Can-
a common complaint and request amongst not just me, but our entire sales force, from the, selling to the startups all the way to selling enterprise. So many of our deals, and I talked to so many of my peers about it. We had all kinds of group discussions, group chats going on. We're like, how can we get past the self-serve plans? How can we sell beyond this? Because we were all stumped. And this is one of the first biggest red flags that I had about Cloudflare. I was maybe like 2 months in. It was, pretty early on, and we had an all hands meeting, meaning we had like kind of like a company wide meeting, and our seat executives are going to say whatever to the whole company. And the CRO, Mark Boroditsky, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, but the CRO comes on and he essentially says, I'm not quoting him word for word, but he essentially says, if our salespeople are having trouble selling our products, then you need to figure out ways to sell better. And it was very, very like, whoa, this is the feedback you're getting from your boots on the ground.
So,
These are the
so,
people like,
so he was sort of saying you're not doing something right, or
right,
you salespeople need to up your game or whatever.
right. Like
Yeah.
if you're not selling it, then that's not my problem, essentially.
Hmm.
And that's it across the board for all organizations. And I know he's been hearing this feedback for years because, when the video went viral, I had some people that used to work at Cloudflare that got laid off in a very shockingly similar way, like last year or 2 years ago. They told me that they were like, it was such a tough sell, and that CRO has created an entirely toxic sales environment. It's really, really tough. And if you go on Glassdoor right now, look at the reviews. Look at the reviews and how many reviews there are from salespeople, especially about that CRO, especially about the CEO. It's not good and it's toxic. And
Wow.
you have such a disconnect between the people, your boots on the ground, the people that are talking to these companies every single day, to the C executives, and that management in between is there's such a disconnect.
I also wonder, just one other question about the pricing. Did they ever consider, or maybe did they have different pricing based on the size of the company uh, that was, potentially going to buy the service? I know in my experience, I've dealt with companies who have, like, let's say you get X amount of traffic. If you get 1 million page views a month, you get this. But if you pay X number, but if you get 10 million a month, well, maybe you're going to pay about 2 or 3 times that, just
Right. Which
based
makes
on,
sense. Like
yeah.
that pricing model kind of makes a little bit more sense. With this, no, there was no middle tier, and that's what was so difficult. And I even reached out to like the marketing team, like head of the marketing team, being like, hey, like even the way it's listed on the website, it's the free plan, basic plan, pro plan. Those are all considered the self-serve, $250 max, plus some add-ons. But either way, it's cheap. And then the next plan, there's only one other plan after that, and it's called Enterprise. And Enterprise, you hear Enterprise, you think of
Yeah,
Depot, Google, big, big companies.
sure. Yeah.
We're trying to sell the enterprise plan to companies with employees with 300 employees. And they're like, we're not an enterprise company. Like, this is so expensive. Why are we paying for all this? We don't need all this, blah, blah, blah. The marketing of the plans and how much they cost, it's just not lucrative to selling to businesses at all.
Yeah. Okay. So all that's happening. Tell me, what do you think at this point? I guess that you're now around the holidays. I mean, you said you didn't close the sale in 4 months, but it's really not quite that, because it's not like you start selling on day one. You got a week of onboarding. You've got some more training after that.
Mhm.
How are you feeling in the role at that point? And did you see that what happened coming at all? When did that happen? Early January, maybe the first week of January
Yeah, basically like right off, like that first Tuesday back after
after the holidays?
after the New Year's and everything.
Yeah.
It was the 9th, I think.
Yeah.
Um, well, what was interesting was, throughout my months in like September, October, November, there were several people that were let go throughout the team. I remember one day there was 4 people. So within my mid-market self-serve team or division, there was like 45 of us, I think, give or take a couple. And there was a couple weeks where I think we lost like 10, 12 people. And that's kind of a lot percentage wise. And all of those people either left on their own or they were let go. And what was also interesting about that is there was a day where I think like 5 people were all let go at once. And they had all started in January of 2023, but they had all started as BDRs or SDRs in the role. They were like in that role for 2 years. They got promoted, had a really hard time selling, and then they let them all go after not even being in the seat for a year. And I thought that was really, me and my peers were like, that is crazy. Like, is there no training program to, like a BDR, like you join the company is kind of like an entry level. You're just someone
Yeah.
making
Just
cold calls.
explain for a second, what is BDR and
Yeah,
SDR?
a BDR/SDR, a business development representative or a sales development representative. That's essentially like, you're graduating college and you want to get your feet wet into sales, very entry
Okay.
level. And typically you do that because you then want to get promoted and be an account executive. That's typically like the first couple roles in sales. And hopefully you're with a company who will train you as a BDR. Then when they see that you are up for promotion, they will train you how to be an account executive, because you have that background knowledge of the products already. And then you can immediately go into being a great seller. And that is how a lot of companies operate and where they get their account executives from. What I learned at Cloudflare is there is no training for account executives. They expect you to be as good, if you were a good BDR, they expect you to be a good AE. And those roles are very, very different. BDRs are just, they cold call, they set meetings, they outreach. That's what a BDR's job is. An account executive, you're supposed to take them all the way through. You have that first meeting and you take them all the way through the sale. It's a very different skill set. And instead of training the BDRs who got promoted at Cloudflare, they would just fire them if they weren't performing well within 6 to 9 months. And I thought that was really, really strange. And
So
if you look at like LinkedIn, on Cloudflare's LinkedIn, how long people have been BDRs for, like 2 years. That's a really long time. Usually it should be like a year or less for being at like a BDR before getting promoted. And so they're making these people hang around, wait around for 2+ years, not getting promoted. Or if they do get promoted, there's no teaching. They just throw them into the winds. And then if they don't perform, you're
yeah,
gone.
so it almost sounds like the strategy is like sink or swim. We'll throw these people out there. If they can survive and do it without minimal training, maybe that's like a really talented salesperson. We'll keep them. If not, they're gone. Right? Is
Right.
that kind of what was
Yes.
going on there?
Yes. And that I have not seen at other companies. Like usually it's a really great program training. At least the first job that I had, I kind of I worked at Insight Global, and I started out as a technical recruiter, and I wanted to get promoted into account management. And their training program there is super great. They teach you how to become a seller. They throw you in a lot of mock things, and it's a lot of hand holding, but it's good because you really get to learn exactly how to do the role. And it was just bizarre that Cloudflare had nothing like that.
Okay, so you brought up the video. Let's talk about that fateful day then.
Yep.
Actually, I want to ask you this. So you mentioned people are getting laid off or leaving. Maybe 10 to 12 people in sort of ahead of the January 9th date. So are your spidey senses tingling at this point? Is it like, are you getting some sense that
Yes.
things, it might not, things might be
Yes. Despite them
terminal for you?
signaling like, ooh, job security may not be as tight as I was kind of hoping, or I was kind of thinking it would be.
Yeah,
But where I was kind of feeling hopeful or like, oh, this won't have anything to do with me, is they were just mostly letting go people that were the BDRs first that got promoted, couldn't perform because they weren't taught how to. And so I was like, oh, I'm good. I'm an outside hire. I came in directly just as an account executive. I was also thinking, well, these people were in seat for like 6 to 9 months at least as
sure.
an account executive. I was like, I have at least 6 months before I really need to be worried about anything. That was like my thought process, which of
Yeah.
course was wrong. But that was kind of where I was thinking, like, I at least have like Q4, Q1, maybe Q2 to really show them like my skill set as a seller.
So the day that you get laid off, other employees that you're working with are getting some meetings added to their calendar, and tell me what happens. Take it from there.
Yep. So, I'm in like several kind of group chats. Like I'm in like my cohort group chat who I onboarded with, just we're talking a lot. And in some other departments in the sales team, people start saying, and this can happen like the week prior, like January 3rd, 4th, that first week, where we're starting to get messages of, whoa, you guys, look at, and it's a screenshot of someone's director's calendar. And you see all of these little 10-minute meetings, 10-minute meetings, 10-minute meetings, 10-minute meetings. And you're like, that's a little spooky. I
Right.
wonder what that is. And then some other people in some other departments, or within the sales department, but other organizations started getting laid off. And we started hearing about it. And we were like, uh-oh, this might not be good, but we're probably okay because we just started. That's kind of like what we're all thinking. And on that day, on that Tuesday, so it started out completely normal. I had like a meeting in the morning. I was working on some stuff. And then out within like 30 minutes, all of a sudden, all these messages are coming in. Uh-oh, you guys, I just got this calendar invite. Or, uh-oh, you guys, my director now is starting to do all these things. And it's like, oh God, what's going on? And it's rumblings. And then my friend who started with me on the same day as me, she got the calendar invite. And we're like, oh God, what's this? Like it was a calendar invite, a one-on-one invite from a director not anywhere in our organization. He was not part of mid-market. He wasn't part of enterprise. He was something completely random. Never heard of his name before. And we're like, okay, maybe they're just doing some reorgs. Maybe our teams are getting split up. Maybe we're going to be going to his team. We don't know. And so that's what we're thinking. That's what I'm thinking up until she has the call. And she has the call. I'm like, oh my God, tell me afterwards. Within 10 minutes, she messages our group chat. There's probably like 50 of us in there. She messages us and goes, I just got laid off.
Wow.
And my heart sank. And I was like, oh, no. And I texted her. I was like, call me when you can. Because my call was coming up. And so I saw that, was like, oh my God, I think I know what's about to happen.
Okay, so you had that, but at that point, you'd already had that added to your calendar, so you knew
Yes,
something ominous was coming, probably.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And so I texted her and I was like, call me. She calls me, she's crying. She says, I just got laid off. And I was like, oh my God, why? How? What did they say? And she tells me they tried to blame it on my performance. And I was like, wait, I've only been here for like barely 4 months. Like, what do you mean I'm laid off? Like, what performance? Like, what do you mean? And she told me that they just didn't tell her anything and it was just bullshit, basically. And so I was like, oh, I just knew it. I felt it coming. I felt it in my gut. I felt it. My anxiety was kicking. And I was like, no, dude, like, this is it. This is a
Right,
massive layoff
right.
that's happening right
So
now.
let me ask you, I mean, what I was really struck by was your sort of presence of mind to make the decision to put the phone on. Because I mean, there's got to be, after having talked to your friend, I imagine there's a lot of uncertainty and just, you're feeling nervous maybe about what's about to transpire. And then you decided to record it. Like, tell me
Mhm.
about that decision. How'd you make that decision?
Yeah, so after I got off the phone with her and I had like 10-ish minutes before it was my turn, and it's not a lot of time to
Yeah,
freak out or really do anything. And so I just went to my instincts and I called my dad. My dad's been in the corporate world for a long time, and he's been a high up. And so I always go to him for any kind of business or career advice. And so I'm like, Dad, calling him, freaking out. Dad, I think I'm about to be laid off. Oh my God, I don't know what to do. And he's like, whoa, 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 calm down. He's like, what do you mean? And I tell him like, my friend just got laid off and I just got this random calendar invite from the same guy. And like, I think they're doing like mass layoffs right now and they try to blame her performance. And we just started, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, it's okay. Don't worry. He tries to calm me down. And he's like, it's okay. Stay calm. Stay you. You got it. Just call me afterwards and tell me oh my God, my heart's racing, just like remembering. But he's like, just call me afterwards and tell me what happens. And I'm like, okay. Knowing me, I'm already starting to spiral. I'm already like, I struggle with anxiety a lot. And so I'm like, when I have, when I'm in this kind of heightened state, I'll probably like black out mentally. I'm probably not going to remember what they
sure.
say. I'm probably not going to remember what I say. And so I'm like, you know what? Let me just record it so I don't have to re-explain what they said to me 10 times to my mom, to my dad, to my friends, to my whoever. And so like I was like, let me just record it so I can be like, this is what happened and not have
Interesting.
to have the mental energy to like replay and re-say everything that they said to me.
Right, right. And then also if you because it is such a unusual experience, if you don't remember parts of it, you'll have that record and you can just go back and say like what the hell actually did happen here.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah. So the intention was not I need to make a viral video. It was more just like it was practical, really, a
Yes,
practical decision.
it was so I could be like, so I could show my boyfriend when he got home, being like, this is how it happened. Just for the pure easiness of being like, I just don't even have the mental energy to talk about it or explain it right now. Mhm.
So so you start recording, right? You make the decision, you've got it recording, and then, you know, I think that pretty much everybody at this point knows what happens next. Actually, let's take a little look at a clip of that video because just to refresh people on it, so many people have seen it because of how viral it went. But here's a look at the video you recorded of yourself being laid off by Cloudflare. Here it is.
Hey, Brittany.
Hi.
Yes, I'm so sorry. My name's Rosie. I'm just joining the call. Nice to meet you. I'm on the HR team.
Mhm.
Hi, Brittany.
Hi.
Thanks for meeting with me and Rosie. We have an important meeting today. We've finished our evaluations of 2023 performance. This is where you have not met Cloudflare expectations for performance. We've decided to part ways with you.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop you right there.
Sure.
So I started August 25th. I've been on a 3-month ramp, and then it was 3 weeks of December, and then a week of Christmas, and then here we are. I have had the highest activity amongst my team. Since I've started, I have had 3 contracts out, done a really great job managing my deals up until the very end that decided not to close last minute. So I don't think that makes a lot of sense for me in my Cloudflare journey here so far. Also, every single one-on-one I've had with my manager, every conversation I've had with him, he has been giving me nothing but I am doing a great job. I have had great activity. I have really great meetings. I'm picking up the products very quickly, and things have been going really, really well. I make really great relationships with my clients. So I disagree that my performance hasn't been, I haven't met performance expectations, when I certainly have, just because I haven't closed anything officially.
I hear you.
Also,
Thank you.
why are
Go
you
ahead.
doing this and not my manager? Not, we've never met, so this seems a little odd that my manager has no idea that this has been happening and the director has no idea that this has been happening. So I'm just definitely confused, and yeah, I would love like an explanation that makes sense.
100%. Real quick, let me carve out the two threads. The latter of why I'm on this conversation, I'll put that one to the second half, and Rosie might be better to explain the process of who's giving this information in the prior piece, which is your feedback and notes about your performance. So let me add a little color context to that. So just for clarification, you are not being singled out in this. Your peers are also being collectively assessed on performance. This is a collective calibration for Cloudflare. So I just want to clarify that piece. I won't be able to add any kind of specifics on numbers or.
Wait, yeah, no, can you explain for me why Brittany Pietsch is getting let go?
I won't be able to go into specifics for numbers.
Wait, why though? I just started. I've been working extremely hard. Just because I haven't closed anything that has nothing to do with my performance on a 3-month ramp with just 1 month with 2 major holidays in the middle, I don't think that has anything to do with why I should be let go, if that makes sense. So I really need an answer and an explanation as to why Brittany Pietsch is getting let go, not why Cloudflare decided to hire too many people and are now actually realizing that they can't afford this many people and they're letting that go. If that's the real answer, I would rather just you tell me that instead of making up some bullshit and telling me that right before I lose my job from someone that I've never met before, if you can respect that.
Yeah, I can totally respect that. And I don't think Dom or myself today is going to give you any clarity or answers that's going to meet the expectations that you're communicating to us, Brittany. So I can't speak to.
So am I getting let go for no reason? If you guys can't give me a reason?
I'm happy to follow up with you separately to give you the data that was calibrated. I'll need to speak with revenue leadership specifically to see if we can get that for you. But Dom and
Can
I
you
did
share
not
that
have
with me
that
now?
in our meeting. I cannot share that with you right now, unfortunately. Yeah, it's understandable how you feel and your frustration. Cannot stress that enough.
I have been working extremely hard. I just knew that this meeting was coming after knowing what's been happening with my peers and how extremely frustrated and upset everyone is. I know you guys must not be able to understand that given in the positions that you are in, and it must be very easy for you to just have these little 10-minute, 15-minute meetings, tell someone that they're fired, completely wreck their whole life, and then that's it with no explanation. That's extremely traumatizing for people, if you can imagine that. And I don't think that this is, it's just very, very shocking. Very, very shocking. I have really given my whole energy and life over the last 4 months to this job, and to be let go for no reason is like a huge slap in the face from a company that I really wanted to believe in.
Can absolutely understand how you feel that way, why you feel that way. And I'll be honest with you, there's nothing that we're going to say in this call in the time that we have that's going to undo the way that you feel right in this moment. And I personally will do everything that I can to give you as much specific information as I can after this call. I can't make any promises. I understand where you're coming from. I can tell you that Dom and I do care. I understand the feeling that you have right now. And I can't change that. So I'll just be honest.
But why can't, you guys have still not given me a reason why I'm being let go. Despite constant positive praise from my manager, great meetings that I'm having, the amount of activity that I have has all been positive. I have not received any negative inclination. I have not been put on a performance improvement plan, nothing. So.
And I cannot speak to what your manager has communicated to you directly.
But that should be the indication of
for performance based on your attainment and leading indicators of data. That is the rationale.
But I've been here for only a month after ramping, and that was during a holiday. So I don't understand what those, can you explain what those performance metrics are? Or is that just like a vague term to give to everyone that you're speaking to today?
I'll say that the performance indicators and performance metrics are, while they are, we're not able to go into specifics, and we won't, there's no situation where we will be able to go into
Do you guys
specifics.
even know? Do you guys even know like why, like who you're talking to each day? Like every single 10, 15 minutes, do you guys even know who you're talking to? Like why you're letting these people go when you don't even understand like the kind of work and everything that they've put in?
I hear you and what you're saying.
It just doesn't make any sense that you guys have still not been able to give me a reason why I'm being let go.
Just from a process perspective, your questions are valid. This isn't going to be the forum and the situation where we're able to go into the detail that you're looking for.
But then when? If it's not right as I'm getting fired, then it's certainly not going to be after when I'm no longer part of the company.
No. So I don't think there's anything we can say in this moment or today, Brittany, that's going to change the way that you feel. And it's understandable. I'm taking notes and feedback, and we'll circle back.
Yeah, I know you did that for Nestle too, but that's
of the meeting. It's not going to change the outcome of the situation today. So it may be best if I do get into more of the specifics of what the next steps are, because I think it's clear that you have questions that we cannot give answers to. And if you'd be open to it, I'd love to move into what the next steps are so that you're not any further blindsided than you already feel.
okay.
Thank you, Dom. Okay, and I'm really sorry that you're having this experience and feeling this way.
So there it is. That's some of it, Brittany, and I know that must be in some ways difficult to watch, and to watch again. And I assume, do you watch that video? It's because it's been everywhere and it's on social media. And I know it was originally uploaded to TikTok. It just plays kind of over and over. Do you watch it, or have you been trying to avoid it since that happened?
It's not that I'm necessarily trying to avoid it. I think it's just weird to hear my voice on camera a lot, something I'm not really used to, or just like seeing my face randomly pop up on my Instagram or my TikTok or LinkedIn has been kind of bizarre. I I don't say like I don't think I really watch it at all. I know what happens, and when I hear certain clips of it, like it's almost like my heart like breaks for her, even though that's me like 3 weeks
Yeah.
ago. I'm like, oh, that sucks. And like I look back at that kind of and I'm like, I don't know how I was able to stay so calm. I don't know how I was able to, I kind of get emotional at the end. And
Yeah.
part of the video that I end up clipping because it was too long, I'm like basically bawling to the HR woman at the end, after the director just leaves without saying bye. I do start getting emotional and crying, and but throughout that, I am proud of myself for being able to stay as level-headed as I did, given the circumstances, and try to not be so emotional about it. Because I am like a very emotional kind of person, but when it comes to stuff like this and bullshit and logistics, that part of my brain will kick in first.
Yeah. I mean, I know that you cut out the part where you were crying, but I think overall you stayed pretty composed through it all. At least that's how I viewed it. And I think one of the things I know, just having looked at some of the comments and reading, some of the news articles about it, I think that one thing that resonated with people was sort of your sticking up for yourself in that moment, and sort of demanding an answer from them, and saying that, hey, like I've not been given any indication that this should be performance related. Tell me about that. Like, how did you, in that moment, how did you stay composed? How did you, feel empowered enough to stand up for yourself the way you did?
I think it's because I knew I was right. I think it's because I knew that I was being let go for a bullshit reason. I knew that it was not my performance. I have weekly one-on-ones with my manager, and we talk about, what I'm doing well, things I could work on, whatever. I have had nothing but great feedback. My manager was so excited about what I had in the pipeline for this quarter. I had a really high amount of ACV and pipeline for my Q1 and my Q2, and we were really excited. We were ready to crush it. I had my foundational months of learning and studying, and becoming more comfortable talking about the products. And then I had time during the holidays where I could, continue to learn. And then Q1, I had really set myself up for success with meetings and activity and pipeline. And so we were excited. And to hear the way that director guy came on, didn't even introduce himself, immediately started, I'm like, I know he's reading a script. He has no idea who he's talking to. He has no idea who I am. He has not talked to my manager. He has not looked at my performance. He has not looked at my pipeline. He has not gotten feedback from my team, my manager, my director, nothing. And I think that's where I felt empowered because I knew that it was bullshit. I knew that they were trying to pin it on my performance when it was really probably a lack of business planning, and they hired too many people last year and now they needed to fire some.
Yeah. And that was his job, probably, to just to go along and go through that day, however many people were getting laid off. It was his job to be the axe man, probably.
Literally, I assume he got a list of an email that morning saying, here's a list of all the people you need to lay off. Here's a script. Like, here's how you should do it. Here's what you should say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have to say, watching it too, because I've watched the video, several times, and watching it, I did feel a little bad for them, the HR people as well, because I feel like they were sort of just thrust into this situation, and who knows what they were told. And like you said, it doesn't seem like they were really prepared about who you were and what you were doing. It was just like they had to deliver some bad news, and then they sort of connected it to your performance, which was, I guess, disappointing, right?
And that's what I had an issue with. And I made like a kind of follow-up TikTok video talking about this, but I kind of say that I don't think it wasn't HR's fault. HR was being malicious. Like that HR woman, like she was kind, it wasn't her. It wasn't her fault. It wasn't her doing. Like she was given instruction to do this. And same with that guy, the director guy. But what I thought was disappointing about that is, if I was in HR, if I was given that instruction, like, hey, you need to fire all these people today, you need to blame it on their performance, but we all know it's kind of bullshit, but you need to tell them that anyway. I don't know. I would say no, or I would stand up to that, or I would ask questions and I would say that, is that right? Or like, what if they ask questions? Like to me, like, I don't know, even if they were given that instruction, that still doesn't seem right to me.
Sure. Or why not just get their ducks in a row in terms of what their actual story is, right? Like that person might want to have, if they're going to make it performance based, come armed with a few stats and performance metrics. I think you talked about in some other TikTok videos. They didn't really have that. They didn't even have. I'm surprised that they couldn't even say, well, overall revenue is down and the economy is not doing great and the outlook isn't great. Like they could have easily just pushed it on.
100%. Like it's one thing to get laid off. And like, that's one of the, some of the negativity that I've gotten around that video is like the entitlement, like, oh, you're so entitled. You're trying to argue with like, your job's done, dude. Like, give it up. Like, why are you trying to argue with them? Like, they're not going to give you your job back, blah, blah, blah. That was not my intention. I knew before I even hopped on the call that my job was done. And so my whole point of arguing back is because it was a bullshit reason and they couldn't give me a reason. And I knew that they couldn't, especially like later on in the call, the HR woman says, we have not spoken to your manager about your performance. And she admits it. They had not spoken to my manager about my performance.
Yeah, that's a mistake. And it's amazing they admitted it. Okay, let's talk about the decision to post it now. All right, so you've recorded the video. What happened so that happened. Obviously, you're upset. I guess you called your dad because you said he wanted you to call him back. You informed him of what happened. So tell me about the time that transpired and the decision to ultimately post it on TikTok.
So, I call him back. I'm in tears. I try to explain to him that, they tried to lay me off my performance and it wasn't, and they couldn't say anything. And I was like, I just need to send you this video. And so I tried to send it to him, but it's like a 13 to 14-minute long video. And so it's not sending for whatever reason. Like I can't send it via text. I can't send it via email. The iCloud link is like too big or whatever. And one of my friends was like, I told a couple of my good friends and they wanted to see it too. And I was like, I can't send it. It's like being so annoying. I don't know why I can't send it. And someone suggested, like, just put it on TikTok and then you could just forward the link. And I was like,
Right.
okay, good idea. I don't post on TikTok. Like I have a couple like old videos of me dancing from like 2020, like everyone else. And I had like 20 followers and they were all my friends. The intention was, I did not think that that was going to go viral. I did not think that it was going to get a lot of attention. That was certainly not my intention with it at all. I don't really like explain anything too much in the video. Like I don't come on and say like, I was just laid off by Cloudflare, blah, blah, blah. I don't even mention like their name on purpose or tag them or anything. Like I just wanted to kind of share it. And I added a little bit of context with some like, POV, you're getting laid off, like how
Right.
they,
Some text over the
yeah, just
video,
to kind
right?
of explain that, it was two random people and then that was it. And that's kind of like all I said about it. And so, yeah, my intention was definitely not for it to go viral, but just to easily send it to
Right.
my.
So you're using, again, it's almost like a practical decision. I can't send this by email because it's too big. I can't send it by text. It's not working. I can just put it on TikTok and people could see it easily there.
Yeah,
You're thinking a few people who I know, not the entire world, right? Is that sort of
correct.
what you're thinking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then, so at what point did you realize then that it was starting to go viral? Like, how quickly did that happen?
So when I originally posted the video, and like this was also something that like kind of shows I wasn't being intentional about it. When I posted the video, I think I posted like the full 10 minutes. That's how like long you're allowed to post on TikTok. And the last like 30 seconds, they say my full address and my full like personal information about it so they can like know where to send the box so I can send my
Right.
laptop and all that. Um, and that video started getting a lot of attention that night when I posted it. And I got a lot of comments being like, your address is in here, your personal information's in
Oh,
here.
wow.
Like you should try to edit that out. And that's when I was like, oh shoot, like people are starting to see it. So I ended up deleting it because I couldn't edit it, and I just reposted the same video. And when that first video started getting traction, that's when I was like, ooh, okay, people randomly saw this on like their For You pages, a bunch of random people.
Sure. Yeah, the
So,
algorithm is getting
yeah,
into people. Yeah.
yeah. And when I reposted it, it didn't pick up like that first one did. I kind of checked my notifications, and it wasn't anything. It was like couple hundred views, nothing crazy. What happened was the next day, someone on Twitter or X took a snippet, or I think it was maybe Corporate Bro. I think that was like the next one. Corporate Bro happened to see my video. He shared it on his either TikTok or his Instagram or X or something, and someone took a clip of that, and that one blew up. So the original, like the video that really, really blew up that a lot of people saw didn't really come from my account. It came from someone else that had a lot of followers on Twitter or something that posted
Right.
it.
I think was it this guy SMB attorney? Is that
Yes, it was
yeah.
that person, whoever was the one that's the one that has like millions and millions of views.
Right. So I think he's an employment attorney. And I think he saw this, he
Mhm.
saw it and was like, hey, this is sort of like in my line of work and it's really interesting. So he posted it. But I thought it was interesting. His first reaction, what seemed to be total disaster on both sides
Yes,
here. You remember
yes,
this? Yeah.
yes. I do remember him saying that. And I think later on he comments like, never mind, like Team Brittany or something like that. But what's
That's
really
right. He said, here's what he said, and I'll put this up so people can see it. He said, I've changed my mind. She will have endless career opportunities from this video. We've now become familiar with Cloudflare. It's a win for everyone involved. So now I guess this guy, everyone's trying to be quick with their hot take, right?
totally.
And I think you were easy to, it was easy to say that, oh, this is ridiculous. I can't believe somebody would do this. But I don't think that was the case.
Because I think, the feedback like that and like Candace Owens, for example, has been pretty outspoken about this video of me, and she calls me young and stupid. And it's just I see that, and it's so funny. I'm like, you just didn't watch the video, Candace. You didn't watch it.
Yeah. Now, Candace Owens is not the only one who said that, though. So, what do you
No,
say to those
yeah.
people? What do you say to people like Candace Owens or anyone else who says you're young and stupid or you're Gen Z and Uh,
Right. Entitled, whatever, showing private conversations. Right. Um, None of those comments bother me at all. I laugh at them. And I don't think that there's any truth because I don't believe that what about that makes me entitled? That's what I would maybe ask them. What
yeah.
about me having that experience, videoing it and posting it makes me entitled? I don't know what they mean by entitled. Entitled that I was arguing to keep my job, or entitled that, I didn't sell anything in 4 months and therefore I'm a shitty seller. Like
Yeah.
what exactly am I so entitled about?
Entitled is an easy word to throw around, I think, to maybe like, you know, sort of cast somebody as like immature and thinking that the world owes them something or something like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
I feel like that was the case, and maybe that's what they meant. Who knows? Maybe I don't know. Maybe Candace Owens can elaborate on what she means by saying young and stupid. I don't know. Talking to you here, you don't seem stupid at all to me.
Thank you. Yeah, I think stupid meaning she probably meant stupid, like, you know, how is she ever going to get a job after this?
Yeah.
She's ruining her career. No one's going to want to hire this loose cannon. Those are like the kind of main negatives that I've received.
Yeah. So after this guy posted it on Twitter or X, are you at any point like did you pause at any point and think maybe I shouldn't have posted that video? Were you getting concerned at all?
There was one moment that was maybe like 3, 4 days later, where I hadn't even processed the fact that I had been laid off because all this kind of blew up so quickly. And I was feeling really nervous. I was starting to get people to reach out to me. I was starting to get like the podcast requests, and I was starting to get the news outlets requests. And I was, Wall Street, and it's starting to get like big. It's starting to get to a point where I'm not in control. Like people are having their own opinions. People are sharing their videos on their platforms. People are making YouTube videos about it. Like that to me it was like I'm losing control over my story, and I started to think like I should have just not have done anything. I should have just kept it. I wanted to just avoid all this. This is a lot. This is overwhelming, and I don't know if I can handle all of this. But what kept me staying positive and believing in myself and not having any regrets was the comments that I was getting, was the messages that I had received, especially on LinkedIn, like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people telling me that they are so thankful I stood up for myself, that, this happened to them last year or 20 years ago, and they wish they would have been able to say what I said. And, telling me like, don't you ever let anyone tell you that you didn't do the right thing. And I got a lot of those messages, and those messages really kept my, positive energy up about it all.
That's amazing. I mean, that actually doesn't surprise me. I think some people might be surprised by that, but you're saying like the overwhelming majority of messages were positive. Obviously, you got some criticism, but sounds like it sounds like the positive far outweighed the negative here. Is that right?
Far outweighed.
Yeah.
And especially because the negatives, like there was no logic to the negatives. They just either like didn't like me or, didn't whatever. Like there was no logic as to why what I did wasn't good, or wasn't whatever. Like it's just people's opinions about me and what I did. Was it right? Was it not right? That was a private conversation.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't really believe, I don't agree with any of
Sure. I
that.
think it's 9 minutes of your life that's out there publicly, and people are rushing to this judgment about who you are as a person or who you are as an employee and so forth. I imagine that had to all be very surreal. And I'm also thinking too, adding to the surreal nature of all that was just the blizzard of news stories that came about immediately after. I mean, literally everybody had a news story on it. I mean, it was BuzzFeed, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. I mean, everybody, Inside Edition. I saw Entrepreneur. Every news outlet had a story on this, and you talked to some of them. I think the Wall Street Journal is the first one you talked to, maybe. Is that right?
Yes.
And I know you've talked to New York Times since.
Yes.
How was it dealing with the media on this?
I was a little scared at first, but what kind of helped me was, I only really responded to people who, kind of like you included, why I wanted to join your podcast or why I chose to, say a couple things to the Wall Street Journal or New York Times was because of how they approached me. They were very sympathetic. They were very open with how they wanted the story to go. They told me what they were working on. They really kind of helped walk me through it. And they knew I was overwhelmed. They knew I was a little scared and nervous to kind of continue on the conversation beyond just posting that video. And so I ended up talking to those reporters because of how they approached me. And it was a little nerve-wracking at first. I got advice from a lawyer. I got advice from some people. And I ultimately decided that I think this is happening for a reason and I should follow up with it.
Yeah, I think speaking to those reporters, at least you can make your quotes and sort of control your part of the narrative as much as you can. Now, how did you feel about the stories once they came out? Were you happy with them?
Yeah, I was happy with them. I was actually surprised because I kind of gave them a lot more information. I gave them a lot more detail than they ended up putting in there. But yeah, I think, it was well written and they didn't misquote me or anything like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised too. Obviously, the Wall Street Journal, I think, was the first one, and I was really interested in this story when it came out. I mean, I was just captivated by the whole thing, and I wanted to talk to you. I reached out to you pretty quickly too. But when I saw the Wall Street Journal, I was like, oh, great! I can't wait to hear what she has to say now. And really, they didn't quote you that much. I think there was maybe 2 quotes in there,
Yeah.
and then it was more about just the sort of the phenomenon. And even the Times story was sort of about the phenomenon about people posting their layoff videos on social media. So I really just wanted to hear more from you, and hopefully today we can, let your voice be heard here a little bit more.
Totally. Yeah.
So all the news stories, that's really got to be a wild experience. I want to get back to sort of the aftermath though of this. I don't know if you can talk about this. Maybe you can. Did Cloudflare give you a severance? And has this whole thing, if there was a severance, did it jeopardize any severance?
Yes, they did give me a severance. It was
Wow.
pretty minimal. And I did ask to negotiate severance. Oh, so to answer your first question, no, the video, none of that has impacted my severance. They didn't, rescind it or anything like that. Like it's still on the table. I did try to negotiate with them. I asked if I could meet with HR to negotiate my severance package, and they said no. They refused to meet with me. So I thought that was interesting. And I haven't signed it yet because I'm not exactly sure, what the fine print is on that. So that's still kind of up in the air. But yeah, it was a pretty low severance.
But at least this hasn't taken it off the table, which I think they wouldn't do because, that would just be more bad publicity.
That would be more, yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of publicity for them, I wanted to get back to the reaction. And so many people reacted to this. One of the people who reacted was the Cloudflare CEO, a guy by the name of Matthew Prince.
Yes.
I don't know. Did you ever meet Matthew Prince at any point?
I never met him. No.
Had you seen him during those all hands meetings you were talking about? Did he ever speak?
Yeah, sometimes. Mostly though, it wasn't really him. It was mostly the other co-founder, Michelle Zatlin. I think she's the COO. She's the one that would kind of speak a lot. And then it was her and then the CRO who I mentioned earlier, who would usually address like anything with the sales teams.
Okay, right. So your knowledge of him was really just as the CEO, and he sometimes spoke on an all hands meeting, right?
Right.
Yeah. So all right, let's take a quick look at his response. He issued a pretty lengthy response on Twitter, and it said, I'm taking a part of it here. We try to fire perfectly. In this case, clearly we were far from perfect. The video is painful for me to watch. Managers should always be involved. HR should be involved, but it shouldn't be outsourced to them. No employee should ever actually be surprised they weren't performing. We don't always get it right. And then he went on to say some other things, tied in somehow Chris Paul from the NBA player.
Like he's a great basketball player, but not for the Suns or whatever. I'm like, what does it do with anything?
Yeah, and like now if you don't know who Chris Paul is and you're not an NBA fan, you've got to go look up that whole drama, right?
Right.
I didn't fully understand why he did that. I guess he was trying to somewhat make lighter or something. I don't know what he was doing. But what did you think of his? Actually, you've said what you thought of his in a TikTok video. You said you thought his response was hilarious. Can you tell
Yes.
me what you meant by that?
Because it's just so obvious he's trying to, he's doing damage control and he didn't do it very well. We don't, we try to fire, we don't hire perfectly, but we try to fire perfectly. What does that mean? I don't understand what that means.
Yeah,
Um, and the whole thing that he said too about like, no one should be surprised that they're getting let go for performance, right? Like if they're not performing well, no one should be surprised if they're getting let go because that's the reason. I agree. I 100% agree with him. No one should be let go for underperforming if they were not aware that they were not performing. Agreed. That's like confirmed for me again that I was not let go for my performance because if I was, I would have already known about it. I would have had conversations with my manager. He would have been giving me more of that feedback, and that wasn't the case at all. So
yeah.
I thought it was kind of a poor attempt to cover his ass and make Cloudflare's reputation better. But I think that that comment really rubbed people the wrong way. And I don't think people liked it very much.
Yeah, I agree, and one thing that I thought was interesting was his choice of words. We try to fire perfectly. I just thought that was a sort of crass way of putting it,
Hmm.
because really, it wasn't like a for cause firing. It's not like you were stealing money from the company or embezzling, or it was you weren't doing like running
Fire.
your own little business on the side using their computer that they sent you or something. So
Right.
to call it a firing, I mean, these are layoffs. I just thought he could have chosen his words a little more carefully there.
Hmm.
Uh,
hmm
so
Yeah.
that's what struck
I
me.
also agree.
Want to get back to the overall numbers though of how viral this went. I mean, this is one of the biggest viral videos around. Talking about that tweet that the employment attorney posted, that thing has as of today 23 more than 23 million views on X, which is I think mind-boggling.
That's
Did,
scary.
did you even know that at this point?
No, last time I saw it, I thought it had like 12 million. So
Yeah,
that's
so it's continues to get views, which also I don't think totally surprises me. And then it's got about 3 million views. The original TikTok video that you posted has about 3 million views there. So across platforms, and who knows how many views it had anywhere else it was put, or and any other tweets that were posted. Other people probably clipped the video. I mean, you're
mm.
talking about tens of millions of views here. How does that feel to know that so many people?
It's scary. It's weird. You said surreal earlier. It's a very surreal feeling, especially because like I've had people that I went to high school with that I haven't talked to since high school reach out to me and be like, "Oh my God, I saw your video. That's so crazy." My Some of my friends, who are in the sales world and they're account executives at other companies, they have had their clients say, "Oh my gosh, I saw that this girl, used to work at Snowflake," talking to my friends at Snowflake and they're like, "Do you know her? Like that's so crazy." And she's like, "Actually, yeah, that's one of my good friends." And like it's just a very surreal thing of how many people have seen it across the world, across the world. I
Yeah,
have gotten messages from people in Finland, Germany, Australia. Like it's really, really, I can't think about it too much because then I like freak out. So
yeah,
just kind of like it's a spooky thing.
yeah. It's amazing. And I'll tell you too, one of the things that I think amplified it was this guy Austin, who is the co-founder and CEO of a company called Bloom Tech. That's how I ended up seeing it. I saw his quote tweet of the employment attorney's tweet that contained the video.
Okay.
And his tweet alone has 7 million views. That's how I ended up coming to it. He also commented on it. He said, "Looks like the company was nuking most of the sales org," but I think he definitely gave that just some extra amplification for sure. You talked about the impact it's had on your LinkedIn. Did you gain a bunch of followers too on social media, on TikTok and LinkedIn? What's happened to your accounts there?
Yeah. My LinkedIn, I've had over 10,000 connection requests. I still am going through it all. Um, I've probably gotten like 12 to 13,000. I have like 9,000 right now that I still need to go through.
Good
Tons of
Lord.
it's insane. Tons of in-mail messages on LinkedIn. And then my TikTok, I'm like just over 20,000 followers now. I had like a couple, like a dozen before. And then my Instagram is private, but I've had over 1,000 people try to connect with me there too.
And that's really interesting. So you've also had it sounds like some outreach from employers as well. So people have gotten in touch with you about potentially hiring or
Yes,
tell me
I've
about that.
gotten tons of messages on LinkedIn and through email about either interviews, they'd love to interview me, or I've had recruiters reach out to me being like, you'd be a great fit for this sales team, please apply. Or, VPs of sales being like, we have some openings coming up in February, keep an eye out. I'll reach back out to you whenever. I've also had straight up job offers being
Really?
like, yes, not a ton. I would say maybe like less than 10. I've had people say like, join our team now. Like, this is what we can offer you.
Wow.
Bypass the whole thing. We just love to have a conversation with you.
That's
And
pretty amazing. So have you gone ahead and had any conversations with any of these folks or what?
I haven't. It's been such an overwhelming influx of messages. I'm still trying to figure out, and I have like a list going of all the companies that have reached out to me and the different opportunities, and I'm trying to make sure I'm not wasting my time or anybody else's time with the opportunities that I'm getting. So I've been kind of just taking my time, looking at everything, wanting to see what I think, the best company that would be the best fit for me. And then I'll probably start getting more into the interviews and things like that.
Right, right. Wow. It sounds almost like you need to hire an assistant just to help you go through all the messages.
Well, luckily I'm unemployed, so I have the time.
But still, even still, geez. I think you must get tired. Would you get tired of looking at all these messages? I mean, they're just coming in, LinkedIn,
Um,
email, whatever.
no, I don't, especially because they're so positive. And I mean, people have written me either via LinkedIn, once I accept their connection request, or on email, because I put my email on my LinkedIn and my TikTok. Um, People have written me stories. Like I can tell people have sent me, like they've been dying to just tell someone that could relate to them about when they were laid off and how it impacted them and like the feelings that they remember that they felt. Um, I see those stories every single day, and it gives me the energy and the drive to want to keep going with this conversation and wanting to put it out there because of how many people have probably suffered in silence, like have had this terrible thing happen to them, affect their whole family, affect, their kids. And I've had stories of people on maternity leave or paternity leave get let go and they didn't even know and they didn't have a plan. And like it's really, really damaging to people's lives to just be
Yeah.
let go for no reason without any warning, especially if they try to gaslight you and blame something that wasn't true. Um, it's really affected people. And so long story short, answer your question, no, I don't get tired of reading it all. I think it's inspiring me. And it's comforting to know that I was a voice for other people that didn't have theirs.
Sounds like it's putting some fuel in your tank, essentially, huh?
It is, in a good way too. And I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
I don't really know like what is next for me or how I can continue to be that voice, but I'm just trying to figure it out how.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if there's some sort of podcast or some sort of social media project where you talk about this. I mean, like you said, you've become a voice for all these people, right? You know, you've got all these people who've reached out to you. There might be stories in there. They may want to talk about it themselves, just like the way you and I are talking about it today.
Mhm.
Um, I don't
That's a
know.
good idea. Yeah,
That
that's
could be
exciting.
something. I mean, I don't want to tell you what to do or anything, obviously, but
No, but I
uh,
appreciate the insight because it is overwhelming. There's so much you can do now with social media and
yeah,
learning how to market yourself and what you're trying to say and what your voice has to say. And I don't have any experience in that, so I'm just trying to figure it out. But it's exciting
yeah.
regardless.
And I mean, what you did really has struck a chord, it seems,
Yes,
no
yes.
doubt. I want to talk too a little bit about your past experience. You've got some history in television, working in TV news. It looks like a local TV station. Is that, do I have that right?
Yes, I worked for WSB TV in Atlanta. They're Channel 2 Action News in Atlanta. It's Atlanta's biggest news station.
Interesting. Now, how did you end up doing that, and how did you end up leaving that and making a jump into sort of tech sales?
Well, it's kind of like a random thing. Like getting into corporate and getting into tech sales was kind of random. I have a degree in music, and so I thought I was going to teach music for the rest of my life. I studied music education for 3 years. And so I was always kind of involved in that world. And then when I was a student in school at college, I worked in a performing arts center at the performing arts center that I always performed at. And I started getting into like stage production, Broadway production. And I liked that. I thought that was kind of what I wanted to do. I didn't want a 9 to 5. That's what I did not want. I did not want that. I was trying to explore other options that could kind of give me what I thought I was looking for. And so I liked Broadway production, but I kind of wanted to try something new. And that's when I got into TV production. And I loved my job there. That was the most fun job I've ever had. I loved, getting to work with people that I had grown up watching on TV for a long time. It was very cool. It's a very fun job. But that job ended up teaching me that I actually do want a 9 to 5. I want stability. I want, I wasn't being challenged in that role, even though it was fun, even though it was a great job, it was easy. I wasn't being challenged. I didn't have a drive to do anything. I wasn't, I just show up, do my job, go home.
And what was the job? What were you doing for them?
I was a studio technician. So I was like a jack of all trades. I wore a lot of hats in that studio, but basically I was the only person in the studio where we filmed everything besides the anchors. So I would run the teleprompter, I would check their mics, I would direct their camera cues, things like that.
Wow.
Lighting. Mm-hmm.
So that's interesting. And you mentioned the degree in music. What, you play an instrument? What instrument do you play?
I do. I'm a flute player, flute and piccolo.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So
yes.
I on this podcast not so long ago, I had a violinist, and
I watched part of that. I watched part of that interview. I thought that was super cool.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's badass.
Yeah, totally, right? I've never seen anyone play the violin like that.
Mm-hmm.
And just the way it sounds. I mean, man, it sounds like a rock guitar.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's your kind of music, but I was blown away by that. And she was
I
really
like
cool to
any and all
talk to.
music. Yeah, yeah.
You like the rock music? Yeah.
I like any and all music.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so your plan was to teach kids
Yes,
music. Is that sort of what it was?
yes.
Or older students?
I thought I was going to be a high school band director. That I thought was my dream job for years. I was very involved in my high school band program. I was in the marching band. I was drum major. I was very nerdy. I was very much nerdy music. I wanted to be involved in that forever. But as I was going into my senior year, I realized I can't be a teacher. I don't want to be a teacher. I need something different. I need something more for me. So that's why I ended up not doing that.
So let's talk about where you go from here. I mean, this has to have been a whirlwind. It's not even a month since you posted that video, as we're talking now. Where do you go from here? You've had a lot of offers. You've had a lot of people reaching out. You even you posted on TikTok. Yves Saint Laurent sent you like this huge package of beauty products. I don't know what was in there. It was like lipstick. It was perfume.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was very, very. They just randomly reached out to me, being like, they sent me a DM on TikTok, I think, but they were like, "Hey, we saw your video. We're so sorry this happened. Would love to just send you some goodies just to brighten your day. Just need your address." And so they weren't expecting anything from me. Like it was purely just them trying to be nice. And I thought that was so cool. I totally like fangirled and geeked out when I opened that package. I was like, oh my gosh, like my first like package. This is so cool. But yeah, all of that is really cool. And I'm trying to figure out where I want to go from here. I do think I want to have another sales job. I do like being in sales. I do like the process of selling something, especially something that I'm passionate about. I love being an account executive. So I do think that that's still the route that I want to go down, but I'm also very much open to exploring what, this viral video and everything that's happened since, how I can continue on with that too.
Yeah. And has your dad given you any advice in the last couple of weeks?
He's told me to be careful. That's dad's number one rule is just be careful who you're talking to, what you say, what you put out there, like um and I'm like, Dad, of course, of course I'll be careful. But he is more than anything supportive and almost not surprised. Like my parents are almost not surprised that this has happened, just knowing who I am. I've always been outspoken since I was a little kid. I've always, when something isn't right, I've always stood up for it. Funny enough, when I was in high school, I was a senior in high school, and there was I was a part of like a world-renowned band program, right? And uh, there was some political stuff where our old band director left and this new band director came in and she got the job over like false pretenses. Like it was a political game and she was a terrible director. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, there was a newspaper article that interviewed me and two other of my peers. And that article, just about what's happened and what's not right and all of that article went viral. And so
Oh, wow.
go viral in the band and orchestra world, nothing crazy, but in the band and orchestra world. And my quotes were like the main quotes that were the most outspoken. And so to have this happen to me again, to where something's gone viral because I'm being outspoken about something, they're not super surprised.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. It's not, it's perfectly okay to be outspoken, I think. It's a good thing to be outspoken, don't you think?
Yeah, it's innate in me. I can't accept bullshit. Truly. Like it's like a bone in my body. I just can't. I can't
Yeah.
when it's right in front of my face. I don't have the willpower to not say something or speak up about it because if we just let things be the way they are, when we all know they're not good, like everyone's thinking the same thing here. Everyone's thinking that this isn't good. Everyone's knowing that something's fishy going on. Everyone's having these like feelings about it. And we're all just either okay with it or too scared to say something. And that's just not how I roll. And I don't
Interesting.
think I ever will be.
That's great, Brittany. Well, listen, this has been an amazing conversation. It's really been interesting to hear from you and get your full side of the story on all this. Um, anything I forgot to ask you? You got anything I forgot to ask you? You got any questions for me?
um, no, one thing I want to clarify though is I am not a Gen Z. I'm a millennial. People,
Millennial.
yes,
Yes, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to say that. I think that's just what I've seen some people say about
yes,
you.
that
Yeah,
is like the consensus, like, oh, this Gen Z, the new generation, whatever. I'm a millennial, so need to
got
point
it.
that out.
Important point. Important point. Thanks for clarifying that. Do you have any other media lined up? Any other
Um,
appearances or talking to
I
any other?
I do. I do. I have a podcast coming up with I don't know if anyone in the sales world or if his name is Keenan. He does, gap selling. He wrote this book on gap selling and his team reached out to me to do a podcast kind of interview about, they're like, we don't get a lot of women outspoken like this, in the tech world, and we'd love to just kind of hear your thoughts about things. And so I am filming that soon, and I'm excited about that. Um, yeah, and I think maybe the last thing I'll say is I truly have no regrets about anything. I am, even if it wasn't as positive as it ended up being, even if it was more negativity or if it was whatever, those and I keep saying this, but those messages I'm receiving are truly like it means everything to me. And I try to respond to as many as I can, but the messages of people telling me their stories, even older generations, like even like the boomers and the Gen X or generation, those are people are reaching out to me saying, this happened to me 30 years ago and I'll never forget how that made me feel.
Yeah,
And like I just have, because of those messages, even if something happened legally with Cloudflare, whatever, I just have no regrets. And so I want to make that point.
that's good. It's good to see you have that confidence in yourself and that you don't regret it. It's interesting that you mentioned the people from older generations reaching out to you. As you were telling me the story about the guy who was there who didn't know you, who's there to lay you off,
Mhm.
I couldn't help but think of an episode of Cheers. You familiar with Cheers,
I am. I
the old
have not
sitcom?
watched Cheers,
You've not
but I
watched it. You may want to go watch this episode. It's a very funny episode.
okay.
Um, Norm Peterson, who, if you know who he is, he was the guy who sat at the bar and mainly just drank beer. The
Okay.
whole every episode is like a joke about him just guzzling beer at the bar. Anyway, his job um, required of him at one point to start laying people up, and he found it to be, unbearable to wreck somebody's life this way. So he would bring them into Cheers, buy them a beer, and he would break down and cry over it,
Oh,
right? And so people actually loved being fired. They would say, and I'll see if I can dig up a clip and throw it in here, but they would say to him, "Oh, no, don't worry about it. I'll find a new job. I'll be okay." After he did it so many times, he was unable to react. He got basically desensitized to it. So by the end of the episode, there were no tears, and somebody that he laid off was like, "Hey, why? I thought I was going to get tears, and you were going to really feel for me." It's that one. Your dad probably
yeah, he does. Yeah.
has seen it, but I'll put a clip in here. I'll send it to you if I can find it on YouTube or something.
Mm-hmm.
But listen, again, thanks for taking the time to come on, Brittany, and nothing but the best of luck to you in the future. And
Thanks.
hopefully I stay in touch. Maybe you come back at some point. Would love to catch up and see how things are going in 6 months or 8 months or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me on. It's been awesome.
Absolutely. It's great to talk to you, and good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah.